other questions, but let's talk about social norms. In Africa, women actually are the greatest caregivers. You have children, you have older people that we're caring for, and you are living in a community probably that doesn't have a bank, because banks may not be found in the location, in the locality communities where the women live. So one of the reasons for
Yeah.
exclusion is proximity to a service point. So we see that women may find it difficult to travel to distant places where they can access a financial service. So mobile money kind of helps because the agent can be a corner store, can be a hair salon, can be any
Mm-hmm.
other. So those problems like accessibility, firstly, is one of those. Secondly, it's if you're female, sometimes you feel you shouldn't easily speak to a male service provider agent. So increasingly in the mobile money, we find that the agents are female, and so women become more comfortable because in Africa, women, especially the difference of religion, they cannot speak to the male business people that need to pay out. But with the mobile money, we're increasingly seeing women become agents, and so that is really helping because then we know the female next door will be able to serve another female. Again, women sometimes are not allowed to own a phone, are not
Mm-hmm.
allowed to have money, because the money that you have is not yours, it belongs to your husband. So, peculiar to our locality, many women may not even have an income of their own, and
Yeah.
so they can't transact. In the research that we have done as FSD, we find that that's one of the barriers to operating in the space because
Mm-hmm.
they don't have independent income. So empowering women, making sure women are empowered becomes very paramount to inclusion. So
Yeah.
inclusivity should start with a woman having a vocation, having a little business, being empowered to do something. What are the means that we're going to use to empower women? And also owning the device. How many women actually have the phone, like I said? So there should be programs that attract women to acquire handsets, maybe some bundled products that gives them access to insurance, access to credit, to start a business, and incorporate the cost of a handset in there. So some of
Yeah.
that can be very helpful.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much for outlining a number of the barriers that prevent women from gaining access. And you've done, I mean, I just really see that in truth, as they say, there's more that makes us similar, that unites us than divides us, because as you were saying, you're essentially echoing the challenges that women in rural communities in Nigeria are also faced with that prevents them from getting access. So I'll come to you, Chilekwa, for the solutions. How can we overcome these cultural norms? Because they keep coming up, and clearly it's either we find a work around them or just totally have them removed. And I'm not sure which would happen. So how can we actually overcome these cultural norms that limit women's financial autonomy and prevent them from fully benefiting from digital financial services?
No, that is a very good question, and it comes at the right time because also being part of the Women in Technology Network in Zambia,
Mm-hmm.
these are some of the conversations we were having just the other day, right? We talk about equality versus equity, right?
Yes.
Where equality is saying, oh, I want
What
what you have, I also deserve what you have, but equity is saying, understand privilege exists, understand that environmental conditioning is a thing and it actually affects how I gain access to certain things. So if I give an example, if you look at how it is for a man to get a credit facility and how much he's actually going to get versus a woman being
Mhm.
funded and what range she's actually going to be given is very different. There's a very huge gap. And
Yeah.
why I say this is while women in the household, and I'll look at it in terms of a mother, a wife, a sister,
Yeah.
etc., right? In the household, women are seen as more inclined towards being
Looking
able
after the home.
to to look after the home, yes, right. And in terms of groceries, we all know men always complain about grocery shopping, and so even a husband would hand over money to the wife, knowing that she's
Yeah.
going to buy everything the
That they
household needs, even with the $20, right?
Yeah.
But then why, when it comes to credit facilities, the woman is the one that's looked at as the one who will not be able to handle the huge sum of money. But the first place where she's experienced that empowerment is in the home, where she's handling the finance, right? So how do we curb these challenges? We need deliberate policies that cater to women. And by this, I don't mean in terms of creating gender-specific policies. No, it's including the woman at the table. We always speak about the woman being at the table and what do they bring to the table, right? Including the woman in these discussions as they're happening. Let her have a voice in making those decisions, because those decisions affect the household. Everyone is working towards a goal, but that goal always ends up with the household, what is happening in the home, right? And another way we can curb this is by looking at, we talked about KYC. Okay, what are the barriers around KYC? You look at filling in a KYC form. You need next of kin, and also the person who acts as a guarantor. A woman is likely to put her husband. At that point, the husband will be involved in the financial organization, and we all know that by nature women are submissive, right? So if the husband says you're only going to borrow $200 because I don't think this business is going to go anywhere. Even if she believes that she deserves $1,000, she's likely to listen to him, because at some point she will have to show him the records of how much she borrowed. So those things actually do exist, and they do affect how women look at digital financial services, right? Another way is to have focus groups. I think focus groups are really helpful, because that's where the knowledge is passed on, right? So in encouraging focus groups where both men and women are being taught, as opposed to educating the woman and then she has to pass on the conversation to the man at home, because he's likely to listen to another man or a friend who's male, or his doctor, his boss, than listen to the wife who actually has his back, right? So have more conversations where both are involved, and then that way, as they're having those conversations, they will both highlight the challenges around the home, the challenges around their businesses, and how they affect each gender, and eventually we'll be tackling the issues surrounding the woman, because I think we've had for a long while too many conversations where it's women complaining and talking about their challenges, and then the men come in and say, no, but you wanted gender equality, this is where we're at. And then now, how do we bring the two to ensure that we're all speaking one language? Yeah, so I think in a nutshell, those are
fantastic. And I totally agree with you. And it's that practical approach to actually ensuring that we understand what the challenges are, the nuanced challenges, and we're not going to use a Western approach to solve for it. We understand how these things impact on men. So how do we get the men on board so that they make it easier for the women, as opposed to trying to just go directly and say, you have to let this woman have access. Thank you so much for that practical solution. And so I'm very mindful of the time that we have, and I think we have just about 2 minutes to end the session. I wish we could go on, because there's so many questions, but I'm sure there'll be future opportunities to engage both of you, amazing women. So what I'm going to ask you to do now each is, in 1 minute each, share your parting shots. Like what is it that you want the audience to go away with, if nothing at all, from this conversation with respect to enabling digital financial services for women in Africa? And I'll have you go first, Charity.
Thank you, Janessa. So I started with empowerment. An empowered woman is able to do anything. So for me, I'll say, let's make sure that the women in the community, the African woman, is well empowered. If they are empowered, they'll be able to access the financial services and use them. So let there be empowerment in form of savings groups, access to finance, lots of education, build the capability of women, financial literacy for them to understand the finance, and business acumen, basic business skills, so that women can build businesses that generate income, that transform economic livelihoods, and that then will generate an income that can be translated into a financial product or service. So it's women empowerment to change their lives and make sure that they're financially healthy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Chilekwa, your parting shots?
Well, for me, I'll still go back to knowledge. I think information is power, and once you educate a woman, you educate the world, right? But more importantly is how are we doing the knowledge sharing? I think it's time for businesses, providers, the regulators, everyone who provides a financial service to be deliberate in the way they're communicating this information. We can't speak of financial inclusion without actually walking a mile in the less financially included, right? So how do we walk a mile in their shoes? By creating educational materials that cater to their needs. We need to get back to our roots. We know that most people do not understand English. Why are we not creating material that will teach them in local language? We actually need to make those deliberate efforts. Now we're looking at AI and chatbots, and we're slowly, as much as we're moving away from paper, etc., those things are still a challenge in the rural areas. We start slowly. The same way we moved from feature phone to smartphone, it was through education. We were able to see the ads on TV. We're able to listen to the radio adverts. If I want to buy a phone, I know there's going to be a billboard. Those things are not there in the areas. Why are we not making deliberate moves to ensure that communication is being done at the local level? That's my takeaway.
Wow, powerful. Thank you so much. And both of you are indeed passionate about the topic, and clearly, you have everything mapped out. And in truth, I couldn't agree with both of you. I think from my end, it's what I keep saying, and based on the work that I do here in Nigeria, is that if we have the key stakeholders, and as we talk about embracing equity, all the key players and the policymakers, if you're designing right with the the least person in the community in mind, so the most marginalized populations or the most excluded, then you would really have designed for everyone, right? Because then you're taking all the smaller needs into consideration, and then it serves everybody. And that's essentially where we want to be as we embrace equity and continue to drive the conversation this month of March to advocate for the inclusion of women around the world, as the challenges seem similar across board. Thank you very much to the organizers of this panel session. It's been amazing, both ladies, Charity and Chilekwa. I've had a great time. Thank you. Over to you,
Olu. Thank you very much, Chinaza, Chilekwa, and Charity. It's nice having you. You all been very, you've shared informative ideas where we can go. If you educate a woman, you've actually educated the whole world. That's a very deep statement to make. Policymakers, they need to make sure that everybody's they are all part of the process in ensuring, in enabling, in making policies available to guide this ecosystem. Funders, investors, NGOs also should come on board to see how digital financial services can help. Media people too, they are needed because they need to hear, they need to see what is going on. It's nice having you, though we started a little bit late, but we've been able within the little time we have to do justice to the program. On this note, I say thank you all for coming. Until the next edition of Financial Inclusion Webinar Series, I say God bless you. You have a very beautiful day. And thank you for sparing your time to share your knowledge and your experiences with us. We do really appreciate this. Have a very lovely day. God bless you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.